Welcome to Film Riot. Today I'm really excited about what we're able to bring to you guys. I've been talking about MZ for a really long time. They put out some of the best educational material that's out there. I've said it a million times before, but now we've been able to partner up with them to bring you guys some free looks at their classes. So today we have 10 minutes of Alex Buono talking about visual subtext, which is a really great topic, and it'll totally change how you look at approaching your scenes. So I'm going to shut up and get right to it.
For those of you who were in my last workshop and you remember the last evening lecture, you remember we talked about this concept of visual structure. We talked about how any image can be broken down into its 7 core visual components, and that by controlling these components, you can control the amount of visual conflict that the scene has. And by doing that, you can parallel the visual story with the narrative story. You can tell your story with pictures. And one of those elements is the color scheme. You can tell your story through a color scheme. And for example, The Godfather has a very specific color scheme. It has an orange and black color scheme. This is an infinity of color scheme. You could call it a limited color palette as well. And if you look at The Godfather, the whole movie is orange and black. And all of the production design and the way they've shot it, lots of orange and black shots. And not just the color orange, but literally, there are lots of oranges in The Godfather. Believe it or not, the orange, the fruit, is used to foreshadow death in The Godfather. So maybe you're thinking, okay, but hey, it was the 70s. I mean, you know, he was doing some wacky thing. So let's look at another very similar example from another more recent gangster film. This one is called The Departed by Martin Scorsese. And in this one, X marks the spot. Scorsese adds a subliminal, sometimes not so subliminal, X to foreshadow death throughout the film. Once you know it's there, you start seeing it everywhere. X's all over the movie. He's foreshadowing death. He's also referencing one of the original gangster movies, Scarface, that did the exact same thing. Scorsese, Coppola, they're pretty old school. I mean, would anybody still do this today? Let's talk about David Fincher in this movie Fight Club. In Fight Club, David Fincher, believe it or not, has placed a Starbucks coffee cup in every single shot of the movie. Every shot, this is just 6 of them, has a Starbucks cup in it. Now he admits, sometimes it's not always visible, sometimes it gets blocked by somebody or gets covered up with another prop, but it's there. Why is he doing that? In this case, it's not so much a harbinger of death, but it's a clever stab at the way that consumerism has completely taken over our lives, which is the underlying theme of Fight Club. Now this idea of analyzing a film and figuring out what does it really mean, this used to be left to the academics, the extreme cinephiles of the salons of Paris, right? And then came the internet, and along with that, all of these Breaking Bad wikis and Reddit threads and lost podcasts. We've become an Easter egg culture. We want to know what it means. We know that when we see a film like this movie seems to be trying to communicate some kind of deeper thematics. And it's doing it through cinematography, and it's doing it through hair and makeup, it's doing it through sound design, but more than anything, it's doing it through screenwriting. And so that is part of the first rule of subtext, is that the subtext must be organic to the story. The whole point of subtext is to serve the text. You cannot just have random symbolism and metaphors that are disconnected from the story. It means nothing. It has to come from the story. Now, the second rule of subtext is that the undefined is much more powerful than the defined. This is not about creating a riddle for the audience to solve, and then you give them a little thumbs up when they solved it. That is not what this is about. The mysticism of it, the not knowing, that is what invites the audience to engage in your film. You don't tell them the answer. You just give them a question. You let them try to figure it out. And the third rule of subtext is to think laterally. This will be a recurring theme. Lots of what we do in the film business is linear thinking. You know, A plus B equals C, and 100 foot candles at 100 ASA equals F28 every single time. Lateral thinking is the opposite of that. As Coppola would say, we're going to count from 1 to 10, just not in that order. So it's about surprising the audience and not doing the expected thing. And combining the undefined with the lateral makes it more universal. It opens your story up to more people. And the more you define your subtext, the more you close the door on people. So let's talk about how to add subtext to your film. So first of all, we need to do a little quick course in Semiology 101, the use of signs and symbols to convey a message. That's what semiology is. In semiology, they're basically talking about symbolism, and they like to use terms like the signifier. The signifier is the catalyst conveying the meaning, and the signified, that is the meaning conveyed. In other words, the symbol and the meaning. Let's not overcomplicate this. That's basically what it is. So for example, I can show you a picture of a tree. You look at that and you know it's a tree, but that's also a signifier. Images work both consciously and subconsciously. So you say tree, but your brain is subconsciously thinking other things. Maybe it's thinking nature or family tree or the environment. And then I can add another image to that and it's going to completely change the way you're thinking about it. And now maybe you're thinking about Isaac Newton or science or knowledge. And now I'll add a third image and it will completely change the meaning of it. Now I'll add a woman to it. And now it's completely different. Now it's Garden of Eden, it's Eve, it's sin. So what did I intend? Why did I show you that? What's the meaning of it? What's the answer? This question of artist intention is as old as time. It's existed long before film. You know, why is she smiling? What's the answer? Why is this guy screaming? What the hell does this mean? What is this? You know, some artists leave behind hidden clues as to what they might have meant. This is one of the most famous paintings of all time, The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo. And he's left you a very big clue in this painting as to what he might have meant. Michelangelo, one of the greatest anatomical figure artists of all time, he would dissect cadavers to understand how the human body works. He would dissect human brains to understand how we might think. And within this painting, he has a very big clue. Here it is. The human brain, a perfect, anatomically correct cross-section of the human brain in the place of God. What is the subtext of that? Is he saying that God's divine gift is our intellect? Or maybe he's saying that man created God, that there is no God, that we made him up with our brains. They're two pretty drastically different interpretations of the same thing. So what's the answer? Well, the bottom line is there is no invalid interpretation. Artist intention does not matter. And this is a big lesson to learn. You hear this all the time from your filmmaker friends, show you their film and it doesn't totally work, and they say, no, let me explain to you what I was trying to do. No. And I always think, what does it matter? What are you going to do? Sit behind, whisper in the ear of every audience member, that's what I meant to do? As soon as you release that film, what began as your film is now our film. It's no longer yours. It's no longer for you to say what it means. Now we get to decide what it means. Some people think that, oh, but if I go to a museum and I just copy a piece of art, I mean, how's that fair? I mean, aren't I supposed to be a genius? Aren't I supposed to figure everything out myself? I want to unburden you from the pressure of being a genius. You don't have to think of everything yourself. Believe it or not, nobody does that. There's a saying that good filmmakers borrow and great filmmakers steal. As great as Steven Spielberg is, where would he be without the work of his heroes like Ford and Truffaut and Lean and Capra? What about this guy, Paul Thomas Anderson? The word genius gets thrown around a lot. I've probably called him a genius a few times. But where would he be without his heroes, who he steals from every single time out? Guys like Altman and Scorsese and Kubrick and Demme. Remember, everything is a remix. According to Coppola, you can't actually steal. You can only take what I've done and interpret it in your own way, and that is how you find your voice. Or, according to Jim Jarmusch, steal from everywhere, but steal only what speaks to your soul. Originality is non-existent. Authenticity is invaluable. So add subtext to your films. A film without subtext is meaningless and paper thin. Do not worry about how your films are interpreted. You cannot control that. You simply make a film that is meaningful to you, and you hope that your audience will engage in it. If it's meaningful to you, it will be meaningful to somebody else. If you're just throwing images together that don't even mean anything, you're just trying to be cool, it doesn't even mean anything to you, it's not going to mean anything to anybody else.
If you're a budding filmmaker, entrepreneur, innovator, domain.com is the place to go when that next idea hits you. When you get a domain name from domain.com, you're taking the first steps in creating a vision and identity for your brand or idea, and .com and .net are the two top premier, most recognizable domain name extensions, which means those are the ones that are going to help you expand your presence online the best. And for a limited time from now until August 31st, if you use the coupon code FilmJumbo, you get 35% off your order when you use that coupon code at domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think domain.com.
Logo.
So again, a huge thank you to MZ for letting us offer that to you guys for free. Of course, they're hoping you go through and actually buy the full class, which in my opinion is entirely worth it. It's like 6 hours of educational material on cinematography and just approaching your story from a visual aspect, and Alex is amazing with all of that. In fact, they do have a trailer for the class, which we'll show you right now.
Hey, my name's Alex Buono. I'm a DP. We're behind the scenes of a commercial I'm about to shoot. Now, you might have seen my work on Saturday Night Live, where I've been shooting the film unit for about 14 seasons. But I also shoot short films, features, music videos, documentaries, and commercials. But you know, before I was ever a DP, I was a camera assistant, and I had a chance to learn from some really amazing cinematographers. Guys like Conrad Hall and Dean Cundy, Jack Green, and John Schwartzman. They were so generous with their knowledge, and they inspired me to someday try to do the same. Now I'm gonna start by going over what I think are the best tools and techniques to get the most cinematic look out of whatever camera you own. We're gonna take a short film script and we're gonna totally break it down. We'll create a shot list, lighting plan, storyboards, basically anything that I would do at SNL or any other job. Then we're gonna shoot one of the scenes. You'll see exactly how I work, from lenses to camera movement to lighting. And along the way, I'll show you how to apply these same techniques to your work. So whether you're a still photographer who's learning to shoot video for the first time, or you're a veteran videographer who's just looking for some new techniques, I'm just really excited to share with you guys some of the lessons that I learned from my cinematography heroes and that I now use in my own work.
So there you go. Alex's class is excellent. It's actually the second one that he did with them. The first one is just as good, so definitely take a look. And what's great about MZ is they're now offering it as a subscription-based service, which means you can either come in at a $300 a year plan or a $400 a year plan. And given the fact that each of those classes were about $200 a piece, that's a pretty amazing deal. And they're always offering new stuff. They're working on a bunch of stuff going forward that as a member you'll just have access to. The next one I think they said is a C200 tutorial on how to use that camera, something like 2 hours long of diving into the camera. And you know this isn't just like an ad or a sponsored thing, because I've been talking about MZ for years, saying that they're one of the best online, and I have personally bought with my own money all of their classes over time, and I have loved every single one of them. So definitely check that out if you're looking for some great educational material on cinematography, directing, editing, audio, and so on. And right now they tell me if you use the coupon code RODEROCKS, you'll get a free Rode video mic with your subscription while supplies last, or till the end of the month, I believe. But we do have a link below for the site, so definitely check that out and get it if you dig it. And we do have some more free content coming from them soon, which I'm very excited about, so keep a lookout for that. And now from what I'm watching, recently I watched the 5-part series from David Sandberg on directing Annabelle. There's not much stuff like this online, so definitely go check that out. He's always incredibly honest and useful with his information, so absolutely worth your time. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.